Okay, so thank you guys for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to explain 6 months of your life in 30 minutes, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to not skip anything important. It gets a little bit dark later on, so right now I'm just going to keep it lighthearted and happy, and these are some funny pictures. Sorry, I'm nervous. You already know, so it's fine. This was me the first week there at the beach. We would have class every week. We would have it from 8 to 3. Once we figured out which teams we were going to be on, then Tuesdays we would have outreach prep is what it was called, but every other day we were in class from 8 to 3. So it was like kind of like regular college. The first week that I was there was orientation week, and I didn't know anybody, and I went in with the mindset that I didn't want to make any friends, that I wanted to focus solely on God and just learning about Him and, spending time reading the Bible. So I would go and I would pick flowers by myself and just have prayer walks. And that didn't last long because these were two of my really good friends. This is Abigail and this is Belle. I don't know if any of you guys know Laverne Tripp. He was on TBN. This is his granddaughter, and she was my roommate. This is me at 5 a.m. in the morning on a fairground that a church was throwing on. And they would have us go out and they would have us do volunteer work because it was a way to share the gospel, because people would ask us, like, your college students up at 5 a.m. doing work that you're not getting paid for, what are you doing? And we would tell them that it was because that, you're supposed to deny yourself and you're supposed to go out and just, show people love and help them. This was either the first or second weekend that we were there. Me and some friends decided to go to the beach, and one of our friends had an aunt that lived on the beach, and we were going to go park there because parking is expensive out in Florida. And we didn't even expect to see them, but they came out and hung out with us on the beach. And they invited us into their home, and there was about 10 of us. We're not all in this picture, but they gave us like ribs and chicken and dates and nuts and figs and like all this really good stuff. And like there was a lot of us, and we asked them if we could give them some money for it. And they said, no, like we used to be missionaries. We know what it's like. We know it's like a little bit tough. You don't have a lot of money, and we just wanted to bless you guys. And this was one of my favorite parts, was that even on like off days, which is Saturday and Sunday, you were with people who are really living their whole life for God, and that just makes it easier for you to live your life for God. You do have to be able to do it without the influence of others, but it definitely does help. This is us at the beach. I just put this in because I thought it was cute. These were some of my really close friends. We would all go out to this lake every weekend, and we would go swimming. It was just really fun. This is me skateboarding in a parking lot with no shoes on. I was walking to meet somebody at a car, and I just thought it was a really cool picture, so I put it in there. And then I found out I was going to Haiti. So the way that this works is there's 4 places that you could go to. One was South Africa, which is a tourist town, and it's very, very nice. You would get to learn surfing and swim with sharks and all this really cool stuff. The second one was Cyprus, which again is another tourist town, and it's really, really nice. The third one was Nepal. And it is kind of dangerous, but it's not very dangerous. But there was a lot of trekking and hiking. And I was in the sports and fitness track, so every Friday you would have a time where you would go into a track. There was a worship track, a camera track, a sports and fitness track, and I chose sports and fitness. They wanted everybody in the sports and fitness track to go to Nepal because they were like physically fit, but I just didn't want to go. So I put down, I don't care, I'll go wherever you guys want me to go. And they picked Haiti because nobody else was picking that because they didn't want to go. So this is my team. There's some of us. That is, on the right is Lydia. She's from the UK. And in the middle is Jayla, and she's actually right below us in South Carolina. Okay, so this was a small group. That lady on the right, her name's Beth. She was from Australia. She was like 30, but she was like one of my best friends. We played sports together, and we did all this really cool stuff. We're painting pumpkins in this. So the way that a small group works is that it's everybody who has the same one-on-one. So a lot of us are like 18, 19, and we went as it being the first time of us being away from our parents. So they were kind of just supposed to like check up on us, make sure we were doing okay, make sure that we weren't running around sick and whatever. But one thing that they had us do was they had us share, people call it a testimony, I just call it like your life story. They kind of had us share our life story with everybody, and I had never really sat down and shared my full life story with anybody before, because when you're in a small town, what you can say is very, very limited because you don't want to put shame on anybody and you don't want to make anybody think bad of others. So it was really eye-opening to actually sit down and be able to like go through my whole life very openly. and without these people knowing anybody in the stories. So it was just a really cool experience. There was orange trees on campus, and they were filled with spiders, so nobody really wanted to go climb them, so I would go climb them, and I would bring down 6 or 7 oranges, and I would give them to everybody, and we would freeze them, and we would eat them the next day, and it was just really, really fun. And then everybody's new favorite hobby became taking pictures of Jess asleep in class. So I was running around a lot while I was there, and I was very tired quite often, and we would get like little 10-minute breaks, and I would sleep. So this is another one, and this is another one. I promise, I really was paying attention during class. Like, I really was. I was just really tired, and like people would talk during the breaks, and I would just sleep. There's some videos in here, and I already forgot where they are, so if one just starts playing, I'm just gonna let it play, and I'm not gonna talk. Okay, this is a picture. We would go and we would hang out at the hammocks at night. That's me in the top with my friend Derek. And I slept in them one night, and this is them coming to wake me up to make sure I wasn't late for class. The classes, each week, we would have a different speaker. Some of them were flown in, some of them lived on the base. One week we learned about the Father Heart of God, which some of you heard Joe May speak about 2 weeks ago when he shared here. One was evangelism, one was how to hear the voice of God. And what I really liked about the classes was that they were very interactive, and they had us go out and practice it, either with our friends or online or in the community that was around us. So it was very interactive, and I really enjoyed it. This was the turkey bowl that we had. I'm on the blue team on the right, and the red team is on the left. It was essentially a giant football game. The girls would play one quarter, the boys would play the next, and it alternated back and forth. And me and Beth, the girl from Australia, got voted best defense from the blue team. So that was really fun. Okay, this is a video. This is spoons, and there were 70 people who started, and it got down to 2. Let me preface by saying that boy, he beat me in musical chairs the week before. So we played a game of musical chairs with 70 people, and it was me and him, and he beat me, and I was so mad about it. So I was about to let him win in spoons. But it started off, it was about an hour-and-a-half game, because it started with like 4 tables conjoined, and there was 70 people. Okay, so this is when we came back from Christmas break, and this is a picture of a couple of different passports. There's a United Kingdom, an Australian, a European Union, United States, and Canada. So we were getting ready to leave, and we realized like so many of us had different passports. And we thought it was really cool that even though we're all from very different places, we all could come together to do what God wanted us to do, and that we could all get along so well, and that we all had the same heart. And it was just a really sweet picture. Okay, I looked like a rat this day, because I didn't know what we were doing. So we were supposed to take, this is after Christmas break, so this is when outreach starts. So we were supposed to take a plane from, where were we? Orlando to Miami, thanks Mama, and then from Miami to Port-au-Prince in Haiti. So we get to the airport, and the flight gets delayed and canceled. So finally we're in the airport for 14 hours, and my outreach leader, his name was Andrew, he had had enough, and he said we're gonna take a train down to Miami, and there's a team there, and we're gonna just stay the night there and figure it out tomorrow, because we had already missed our connecting flight to Port-au-Prince. Little did we know we would be stuck in Miami for 2 weeks, completely unexpected, and we ended up sleeping in a child's nursery for 2 weeks. But honestly, it was really fun, and I didn't really mind that we got stuck. So this day we would just go out, and we would just have, so on the other side, it said free spiritual readings, because we were trying to trick people to come up to us who weren't Christians. And then I just didn't feel comfortable doing it, so I flipped it around, and it said free prayer. And it was honestly really encouraging how much attention we got for it. People would stop, and they would say, I don't need prayer, but I really appreciate you guys out here doing this. We need it. Some people would come up and ask us for prayer, and we got like a lot of honks and a lot of, just a lot of attention. This day I didn't know what we were doing, and it was out on the beach, and it was a lot of fun. So this is the church that we stayed at. I'm out of breath. Give me a second. This is the church that we stayed at, and it was in Miami, and Miami is full of immigrants. There's a lot of people from Ukraine. There's a lot of people from just all the countries down there, and most of the people there spoke Spanish, and we don't. They would have food banks, so we would help with the food, and we would go outside, and we would pray for people, and we would just like ask them their life stories, and we would hear about it. And I met this one lady. She was an older woman. She was from Ukraine, and she had to come get food. And she spoke very broken English, but she told me the story of how she came over to the United States to have a better life for her daughters. And she said it didn't so much make her life better because she was so old by the time that she got here, but it made the life for her daughters better. And she said that she thanked God for that. And I think it was really amazing to see her so happy and so thankful, even though she had so little. This is just us going out. We would do evangelism. We would go up to the small shops on the corners, and we would just talk to people. And we cleaned the whole church from top to bottom. Neither of those people are me, but yeah, that's what we did. I'm trying to think what the next one is. Okay, so we did trash evangelism. So we would go out in Miami, and we would literally just pick up trash, and people would stop and ask us. They're like, "Are you like with an organization or something?" And we'd be like, "No, we just want to steward the earth well that God has given us, so we're out here picking up trash, and then we would get to share the gospel with them." And we had a competition to see who could find, I don't think it was the grossest thing, it was who could find the weirdest thing, and I found a bag of vomit, and I won. And this is the picture that, I sent it to my mom with no context afterwards. She was like, "What are they having you do down there?" And I was like, I told her the story. Okay, so this is one Sunday. We were there for 2 Sundays, and what they asked us to do was go sit in for one of the services and then go sit out in the lobby here for the other 2 services and just talk with people. So one of my guy friends that was on the team with me tried to go up and talk to them, and they weren't really clicking, so he kind of left, and nobody was really talking to them. So then I went and started talking to them, and the guy on the left and the guy on the right, they're like ex-gang members, like they were rough. And the guy on the left wanted to get out of the street life, and so he became a gay stripper, and then he wanted to get out of that because he wanted to be a Christian. And so it was a very, very interesting backstory, I know. And I talked to them for 2.5 hours, and it's these 3 pretty rough-looking guys. So my guy friend comes up, and he like spreads his legs all wide, and he like puts his arms up. He's like, "Jess, you good?" I was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm good. I'm fine." And it was probably one of the most spiritual talks I have ever had. Like, not just like surface level stuff, but it was really deep and it was really spiritual. And they were crying by the time it was over, and they asked me to pray for them. And I actually just found this picture a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even know somebody had taken a picture of it. But they would come to the men's Bible study afterwards, and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, Jess, how you doing?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm good." And they're like, "What is this 19-year-old little white girl doing talking to these 3 ex-gang members?" But I just think that that's the beauty of the kingdom, that we can just talk and love anybody, even if they're not like us. Okay, so it's getting close to time for me to fly out to Haiti, and my mom's like freaking out. She calls me, she's like, "Listen, if you don't want to go, say the word." She called me and she said, "I will come pick you up right now in Miami and you can come home." And she had the right, because Haiti is a very dangerous place. But we talked about it and we prayed on the phone and we worked through it. And then I go back to cleaning. And I talked about Becca all the time, so everybody knew that Becca was my sister. And I asked one of my friends, Caleb, to hold my phone. And he was like, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he was like, "Ah!" 1 second. It's not that one. He was like, "What's going on?" And, I said, "Why? What's going on?" And he said, "You just got a text from your sister that said, 'Bro, mom's tweaking out. What's going on?'" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, mom called Becca." So we had to pray through it as a family, but I will show you why my mama was freaking out.
The verge of the abyss. The US on Thursday issued the highest level of warning for Haiti as heavily armed gangs expand their control.
U.S. authorities now warning all Americans to get out now.
This is my most ambitious trip to date. I'm going to Haiti, where 80% of the capital is controlled by ruthless gangs.
We've been taken around by a bunch of gangsters, and they're all armed with 2 guns in their pants. They're all bullets.
Militias
This
roam
is
the
Port-au-Prince.
neighborhoods
This is
and
where we were going.
terrorize, raping women and capturing foreigners for ransom.
What's the worst that could happen?
Worse? Kidnapped, dog. Excuse me.
In the past 12 months, more than 2,400 people have been killed in Port-au-Prince, the capital city where I'm heading all by myself. What is it like inside gangster-controlled slums, and how difficult will it be to film on these streets?
Hey, what's up, man? Hey!
So that's one of the first news articles that pops up on YouTube when you look it up, so you really can't blame my mom very much. Can you guys give my mom a round of applause for handling it as well as she did? Thank you. Yeah, if Abby or Becca had been going there, I would have fallen to pieces too. Okay, so we get to Haiti. This is some of the landscape. It's very, very beautiful.
Especially with golf.
When we got to Port-au-Prince and we had to stay the night there, I almost got kidnapped in the airport, but I don't have time to go into that story. If you want to hear about it, like talk to me later, text me. So we're already like freaking out. And by the time we got to the hotel, half the team was in tears. Like it was not good. I wasn't though, just so you know. And we were staying the night, and then the next day we were supposed to fly out to Lakai. So we get on the plane to fly out to Lakai. We're halfway there. They're like, we don't have the right landing strip material to land, so we have to turn all the way back around and go back to Port-au-Prince. And we're like, we're getting kidnapped. Like, this is really suspicious. But it wasn't. It was literally the landing gear. So we turned around, got on a different plane, and then we finally made it. And then after being up at 3 that morning to start the travel day, I think we got there around 5 or 6. Within 30 minutes, we were on our way to a children's orphanage to go help them with some stuff. So it was a very, very busy day. This is the second story of the base that we were on, and this is a sunrise that we got to see every morning, and it was very beautiful. Okay, this is important for a story later on. You guys see that wall in the back? Anybody see the wall in the back? Okay, so that wall goes all the way around, but it was being built when we got there. So there's like some major holes in it. So keep that in mind for the rest of the story. But that is the base that we stayed at in the back. It's actually very nice. The reason it's so nice is because they have earthquakes there about every 10 years, and it totally destroys almost every building and resets them economically. The thing about Haiti is they were one of the only countries to actually win their freedom. They weren't given it. So like a lot of countries were given their freedom, but they won it. And it was because they signed a treaty with the devil back in the 1900s. And everybody has their own belief systems about that. But basically, they made a treaty with the devil to let them win their freedom, and he could rule over their land. And if you look at the Dominican Republic and you look at Haiti and you look at the middle line, you can tell which side is which because it's so perverse. And the French completely stripped Haiti of everything that it had when they came. So they took all of its natural resources, and it was actually cheaper to buy new slaves than it was to feed them. So they would just buy slaves, work them to death, and then buy new ones. And it cut out so much of their population. And then when they finally went to war to win their freedom, they won, but it killed half of their male population, and they have still never really economically recovered from that. So that's why that building is like that, to protect it from earthquakes. This is what my hair looked like every day. It was really, really bad, and it was really difficult to deal with. Okay, this is a camp that we put on for some kids. By the time we had gotten there, the gang riots had been so bad for 2 months that the kids couldn't even go to school. So we decided to have a week where they could come and do some schoolwork, and we could just teach them about God and just love on them. There was 3 or 4 different age groups, and all of them had 20 in it except mine. Mine had 76 kids in it, and it was from age 12 to 15. And I had 2 translators for all those kids, me and my friend Silas. But it was really, really good. We were doing children's church on Sundays for like an hour and a half, I think. And like everybody was complaining about that and saying it was so hard. And then this was 8 hours a day. So after that, nobody complained about Sunday anymore. This is Shubi. He was my little bestie. The kids there fight really hard, but they also love really hard too. And it was really sweet to watch. Okay, so then we had some of you have actually met this girl. This is MK. She came into town a couple weeks ago. She is originally from Jordan. And when we were having, what would you call it? It was just kind of like a girls' meeting that they would have every week, a girls' ministry. And when we were meeting, she told a story about how she actually was in an emergency waiting room over in Jordan, and like somebody came in and started shooting people, and people were dying right in front of her, and she was like 11. And so she had all the girls, the basis of it was how you conquer fear. So she had all these girls come up and write down their biggest fears. And this age range was like 9 to 22, so they were such different fears. But that's some Haitian Creole writing, which is really cool. This is her speaking to all of them. There was always a lot of girls there, and this was held at the base. This is the beach. It was very, very beautiful. It was one of the only actual nice parts about being there. These conch shells are as big as your head. Like, it's crazy. And I would take a bunch of shells back, and me and Isaiah would sit, and we would sort through them, and we would look at all the colors. And it was really, really nice.
We're pulling them out of these, and those things.
This is some of the physical labor that we had to do.
And they hurt.
We had to pull all those tiny little vines out of those big plants barehanded, and it was like a mile-long stretch of plants. It was not fun. This is in Cholera River, and what that means is it's a disease that if you like drink it, you basically die. So it comes from like runoff, and it gets into the river. So what we did was all those weeds that you see, we would go and we would pull them up, and then we would lay limestone, and the limestone acts as a natural filter, and it creates a small waterfall, so the water gets oxidized, and that kills the E. cholera in it. And we would be out there doing this for hours, a couple of days a week. It wasn't necessarily like the best thing ever, but it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, people are dying. Like, you have to like help people. I don't know. It was really eye-opening to see how little some people actually care about others' lives, because that was the main experience that I took away from this, because there was a lot of complaining, there was a lot of actual refusal to do the work, and that was just very shocking to me because we were there for such a short amount of time, and we have, you know, an unlimited amount of clean water here in America, and they don't have that there, and we just had to give a few hours of our time to help and make that a reality, and some people were just refusing to do it. Becca, turn away. This is the spiders. I was nominated as a spider girl because I was the only one who would actually kill them. There's one more video. This one's huge. She says, "Oh, poor thing." And then like, are you serious right now? Because she made me kill it. So that happened 2 or 3 times a night. That was not like a once. There's about 20 more videos of that, but I don't have time to show that all to you. And the thing about those vines is that in the river, when you would pull them up, there was water spiders. So you were knee-deep stuck in mud, and when you would pull the vines up, water spiders would just come out, and they would run at you or run away, and you can't really move because you're knee-deep in mud. So that wasn't very fun. I don't know what's coming up next. Okay, so they said that they had a surprise for us, and they made us all get blindfolded and start walking, and we looked like a cult. And you're about to see, if me and Kevin put it up right, you're about to see our reaction to it in the next slide of what the surprise was, and just like try and guess what it was.
Blindfolds in 3, 2, 1.
You probably think it's like something crazy. It was a pack of Cheez-Its and a box of Oreos. That was literally all it was. That was literally all that it was, and we freaked out over it because we were like starving over there, essentially. So it was just really, really fun. Okay. This is where it's about to start getting dark. This is me speaking. This is the soccer tournaments that we would have. So every week we would host a soccer tournament. And in Haiti, I explained to you all the aspects of the country. There's not really anything fun to do. They've been out of the playing field in sports for a very long time because it's do or die over there. They don't have time for fun things. So YWAM was trying to have something fun for everybody to come and do, and something to give people to look forward to, whether they were playing or whether they were coming to watch it. And just an easy way to share the gospel. So we would just share the gospel for 10 minutes in between each half of the soccer tournaments. We had a prayer table set up at them. This is one of the little boys who just wanted to come over and hold the prayer sign. It was really, really sweet. My job was to record everybody speaking, and Caleb's job was to make sure that I didn't forget to record and to make sure that I held the camera the right way. He was like one of my best friends, and we constantly got asked, how does it feel to be the only 2 redheads in Haiti? And everybody thought we were brother and sister. Okay. This is just a picture of the back of me, and it's just up here for visual purposes why I tell this story. This is a really hard story for me to tell, and I haven't really even shared it with my family yet. So back to the soccer tournaments. There's a bunch of different teams in it, and YWAM Lakai had their own soccer team in the tournament. There were these boys that were not staff at the YWAM Lakai base, but they let them play with them, and they played with them for a couple of years. This tournament has been going on for multiple years. Here in America with sports, we have, the signs outside of the gym, like keep your shirt on, no food, no drinks, no roughhousing. Well, they kind of have the same thing there, except at the bottom it just says no witchcraft. And if we walked into a gym here and said that, we'd be like, what is going on in here? But it's totally normal over there. So they're just like, oh, no witchcraft. They believe that you should use the talents that God gave you to win and the gifts that he gave you to win. So YWAM Lakai required that they show up to practice multiple times a week to prepare for the tournament, and those boys did not like that. Young men, I should say. And so they left the team, and they started their own team, and they were called All or something like that, ALL. And another rule is no association with the devil. It's just not allowed. Like, you can't do it. They made a post, and it said ALL equals the devil, and they got disbanded from the tournament, and they were kicked out. It costs a fee to be in the tournament. You don't get that money back. Money is very tight over there, and it caused a lot of anger. And as y'all saw, almost everybody is involved in some type of way with the gang. And they got very mad, and they were threatening to essentially come and ransack our base and kill our men and take our women. And I wasn't supposed to know that. Nobody actually knew except for the outreach leaders, but I was very close. I'm actually not going to say how I found out because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So I'm like kind of freaking out a little bit. Not really. I'm like, okay, because here people talk. They don't really do anything. It's all bark and no bite. There, it's like they do it, and like if they say it, they're going to do it. So we're having a team meeting that night. I'm like, oh, okay, good. They're going to tell us, or they're going to like have us spend a couple of hours in prayer, or we're going to go fix those giant holes in the wall that is supposed to be protecting us. So we get there, and my outreach leader, Andrew, he's like, yeah, everybody's just seemed a little down lately, so we're going to go play hide and seek. And I was like, what? Hide and seek? Are we like practicing for tomorrow? Like, what is going on? And he was like, yeah, we're going to go play hide and seek. So I was like, you're crazy. I'm going to go call my little sister. So I thought a lot about it before I called her. And I decided that it was best not to tell her what was going on. And I can't look at her while I'm saying this. In my mind, this was the last conversation that I was ever going to have with her, and the last conversation that I was ever going to have with any of my family, because I knew if I called my mom or my sister, I was going to break down and tell them. And I was saying the most outlandish stuff when I got on the phone with Abby. I was like, do you remember that time that you were 11 and you hit me and I whacked you with a wet paper towel? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And then I was like, do you remember the time that you were 7 and I told you I only played with you because your mom paid me to? And she was like, not really. And I was like, well, I'm sorry for that too. And she was like, Jess, it's fine. So I was just talking to her about everything and nothing. And we talked for about an hour and a half. And we talked about God a lot in that conversation too. I still haven't told her until right now that this is the reason why I called her that night. And it got to the end of the conversation, and I was like about to tell her, and I heard God telling me, like, don't tell her, like, don't you tell her. So I was like, okay, Abby, I'm actually gonna go play hide and seek. Like, I'll talk to you later. Bye, love you. And after that conversation, I had a lot of peace because I realized that everybody that I have ever tried to bring closer to God or bring closer to Jesus, I did it in a way that they wouldn't depend on me, because I am not perfect, let me tell you all, and a lot of you in this room know that. I'm really not. And so I'm not Jesus. I can't stand in the gap for anybody between Jesus and God, between them and God. Only Jesus can do that. And through my conversation with Abby, I realized that I had taught her in the right way that she has to want Jesus and she has to want God for herself, and that I can't want it for her. And I feel like everybody I've ever come in contact who I've given that type of advice to, I feel like I've made it very clear that I can't do it for them. So it was just very peaceful to know that, like, if I did die the next day, everybody was going to be fine. So the next day comes. I don't sleep at all. I haven't eaten in like 26 hours. I just can't. I'm just like freaking out. And Vanessa, who is the Haitian director, she's gone all day. So I'm like, well, good for her. She got out while she could. So then she comes back a little bit before the tournament, and there is one police car there with 2 police, and they each have like a tiny little pistol. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. This is not going to cut it. And my friend Alex has a saying before we go out. He says, don't add to the Don't add to the population and don't subtract from the population unless otherwise necessary. And let me tell you what, I was ready to subtract that day. I was really ready to subtract. So the time comes, and nobody showed up. The tournament went on as normal, and there was no threats, nothing. Nobody tried to hurt us. And we found out that Vanessa had been in town for 8 hours that day, talking to lawyers and talking to police and talking to these men's families and pleading with them, saying, like, we haven't done anything to you. We've done nothing but love you, because they poured into these young men for a couple of years. And she just pulled on their heartstrings enough to where they eventually left us alone. But like on her way into town, there was literally a fire blockade they had set up. They had pulled vines across the road and set them on fire to keep her from getting into town. And she got out and she was like, hey, I have to go get some groceries for my kids. Can I get through? And they moved it and they let her through. And I was like, That was stupid on their part, but like I'm glad that they did it. Okay, these were my boys. This is Schneider and this is Shuvi, and it was just so fun. They loved all of us. All the kids over there really like white people. That's just how most mission trips go, because it's just something new and exciting. And they would just follow us around everywhere, and we were teaching them English, and they were teaching us Creole. And it was, did I say that wrong? I did, because Kylie gave me a look. We were teaching them English, and they were teaching us Creole. This is me and Shuvi. This is me, Shubi, and Azai. During the tournaments, we were just like always together. It was just a thing. This is Isaiah. No, on the right is Malachi. I don't even remember that kid's name. Elijah. Malachi and Elijah. And these boys were Tyler and Vanessa's daughters. So one was American and one was Haitian. So they were a mix of both. This is me and my friend Rachel. This is us messing around. This is Andrew. He was my outreach leader, and they did a little Valentine's Day thing for us where they just dressed up all cute and they gave us food. This was it. It was really, really sweet. So this is when we would go out evangelizing. We get in the back of a truck. This is me and Natu. She is my age. Both of our birthdays are in January, and she had a very similar backstory to me. So we just got along really well, and we hung out all the time. And she was 19, and she was like almost 100% fluent in English and very like fluent in Creole. And it was just really, really impressive. And it made it a lot easier for me that like my best friend there was like a translator, so it made everything a lot easier. This is us out walking around to houses. There's another picture of us walking to houses. This is me sitting with one of the boys talking to them. This was a hill that we had to trek up to get to one of the places that we were going. And it was required that we wear skirts when we did this. Not a fan. Okay. This is another deep story, and I'll make it quicker than the last one. This is somebody's house. This is not a shed. Like, this is probably smaller than the shed that's like was in my sister's backyard. But this is somebody's house. Like, they live in this. Like, actually think about that for a second. Like, 4 people live in there. That's all I have to say about that. I just wanted you to think about it. So we're out evangelizing, and it was our last day. And there's not a lot of pictures of us out doing that because, like, if you have a camera, you're going to get robbed. So we just, like, couldn't have our phones, couldn't have a camera, couldn't have anything. And 2 of the girls go to this house, and there is a demon-possessed girl who is 22, and her eyes are glazed over. There's an episode of The Chosen. It's season 4, episode 3, and this girl's eyes are glazed over, and this is exactly what it looked like. And they were crooked, and they were crossed, and it was terrifying. So they walk into the house, and the mother asked for prayer for her daughter. And any time that the girls would mention the name of Jesus, this girl would just like screech, laugh, like this inhumane laugh. And it was so, I can't describe it to you. It was just inhumane. And it got to the point where they couldn't even take being in the house because of the spiritual darkness that was in there. So they brought her outside of the house, and they put her in a chair, and they asked us all to come over and pray for her. And everybody was really, really scared because not a lot of people have dealt with something like this before. And they wouldn't touch her. So me and one other girl were the only ones who would lay hands on her. And when we would, she would like move away like it hurt her, like just in a very strange way, like not like don't touch me, but like ow, that hurts. So we're there for about 45 minutes, and nothing's really happening. And we asked the mom if she was like this all the time. She said no, sometimes she's perfectly normal and she can help do laundry and she can like move around, but this just happens and it lasts for days. And we found out what happened was her father left her when she was 12, and he took her birth certificate and he sold it to a witch doctor, and they haven't seen him since. She didn't end up getting delivered, and I don't understand it, but I know that we serve a fair and just God, and he'll have his way with the whole ordeal. But everybody was really dogging on the mom and being like, because we asked the mom if she wanted to accept Jesus, and she said no, and she couldn't give us a reason. She just said that she didn't want to, and we were like, do you not see how your daughter is, and this is the only way that you can help her? And what I think was that the mom was combating witchcraft with other witchcraft, and when you get that deep into it, it's not just as simple as like get out. But we were getting ready to leave, and I was in the truck, and I felt like I needed to go back and say something to her. But we were getting lunch that day, and like the food was so scarce there. It was like if you messed with the food, like nobody liked you. Like you were an outcast for like a week. And But I really felt like I needed to go talk to the mom. And so my friend Lydia was like, Jess, you really need to go if you feel like you need to talk to her. So I got out and I went back in to talk to her. And everybody was so scared at that point, nobody else would go in the gate because it was like these little metal, like, kind of like the tops of that tin roof just like circled around the house. And there was a little opening. Natu went in with me, and I started talking to the mom because I had a feeling that she had had some similar experiences happen to her that happened to me when I was younger. And Natu got so sick from just the darkness that was there, she couldn't stay. She ran away. She didn't even say anything. She just was like, I can't do this, and she left. So I was standing there, and there was this old lady just like wandering around the front yard. Like, we don't know what she had to do with anything, but she would like, there was a tree, and she was just standing behind the tree, like leaning, watching us. So she had something to do with the whole situation, but I don't know what. So I'm in there with the daughter and the mom and this old lady, and I was like, well, what do I do now? Because I don't speak Creole. And Lozo was this staff member on the base, didn't really speak but like 3-4 words of English. And he was watching me from the hole in the gate, but he wouldn't come in. He was too scared. He was trying to make sure I was okay, but like he wasn't going to come in. That's how scared he was. And the daughter was kind of like looking at me and like shooing me away as if in like, you've already lost, like just leave. And so I was about to leave because there was nothing else that I could do. And just the presence was so dark because as Christians, we know where we're going. We know we're going to heaven. And I truly believe that like seeing a possessed person like that, like a demon just out in the open, is as close to hell as you're ever going to get. So I was about to leave, and then Oldine, Natu's older sister, came in and started translating for me. And I asked the mom some personal questions about when she was younger, and she said, I don't want to talk about it. And then I told her some stuff that had happened to me, and then she opened up about it. And she started talking about it. And she just started crying and crying and crying, and she hadn't really cried since we had been there. And she gave me a hug, and then I was about to cry, so I needed to leave. And she was asking me, she was like, please don't leave me. And I was like, you don't want to accept Jesus? And until you make that decision for yourself, there's nothing else that I can do for you. Because unless people truly want it for themselves, there's really nothing that we can do for them. So we got back on the truck, and we left, and she ran out on the road, and she was waving goodbye, and she just like dropped to her knees crying. And it was just a very sad story. And Tyler, the base director, kind of talked us through it when we got back, and like we worked through some anger problems during that time. And he just explained to us that like we're looking at a very zoomed in picture of the world, but God sees the whole thing. So he knows what he's doing, and his timing is perfect. And we can find a lot of peace in that. This was one of the girls. We weren't really supposed to have our phones, but there's a phone in the back, and I had mine. And this was like a couple weeks in. I hadn't cried the whole time, and this baby was perfectly fine, but we walked to the front, and she grabbed a hold of my hand, and she wouldn't let go for like 10 minutes, and that metal cup in her hand, she dropped it, and she scared herself, and then she just grabbed onto my leg, and she just like wouldn't let go for like 20 minutes. And when we left, like I just broke down crying, and like I don't even know why, because she was fine. She was literally fine. She had food, she had water, she had a mom, she had everything that she needed. This is another baby at one of the tournaments. This girl's name was Natu as well. She was really, really cute. This boy, it was really sad. His brothers were so abusive to him that when somebody would pick him up, he would not let them put him down. So there is a lot of mistreatment that goes on, and I feel like CPS could do a better job over here sometimes, but like normally, like when kids are getting really badly abused, they're taken away and everything is fine. Like we have it so good in America, and we don't even really realize it. And that was something that really bothered me when I came back, because the other 2 of the 4 outreaches were really, really nice. And so when they came back, they were like, oh, America's so ugly. I hate America. And I was like, I just want to shake the hand of the man who invented air conditioning when I get to heaven, if that is where he went. But it was just really hard to hear people like talk so bad about America, because you all think we have a corrupt government. Their government pays people to riot so that their children can't go to school, so that they can't vote, so that the prime minister who's been there can stay in longer. And the week after we left, actually, it got so bad, they evacuated the American embassy. Literally 7 days after we left, they evacuated the American embassy, and the prime minister was forced to step down. That's me holding him. That's me, and her name was Donna. And then we got to go home, and this is the airport. This is the Miami airport, and this is me asleep once again. We were very, very worried that we were not going to be able to get out, because most mornings there is rioting on the airplane, the thing that the airplane flies off of. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's just the runway. Yes, thank you, the runway. There's just rioting on them, and you can't leave when that happens. And then if our trip got postponed, like we had to fly from Lakai to Port-au-Prince, and Port-au-Prince is the most dangerous part. So it's like you can't just get to Port-au-Prince and not know what you're gonna do. You have to like know where you're going and go and get there quickly. And then my sister came to my graduation, and I was never so excited to see her. I was so happy. This was by far the best day of my life. My mama and Kyla also came, and it was just really, really nice. And then we realized we didn't take any pictures with our diplomas, so me and my friend Caleb took them outside of Buc-ee's at a gas station at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and that is the only picture I have of my diploma, and I lost it after that, so that's the only picture I will ever get. But I wanted to end this by saying that one of the most important things that I learned was we had a week there back in Florida when we were going to leave, and we were talking about just like worshiping. We were just worshiping, like just like all hanging out and worshiping. And this girl came up to me afterwards and she said, I feel like you're an example of what it's like to walk in freedom. And I was like, oh, thanks. I didn't really know what to say. I didn't really know what she meant. And then I thought about it longer, and I went back and talked to her about it. And she said, because I had shared some stuff with her, and she said, you have the ability to love even though you've been hurt. And the best way that I know how to explain it is by the lame man in the Bible, because something had happened to him or he had been hurt to where he couldn't walk until Jesus had healed him. And just like Jesus said to the lame man, you've been healed, get up and walk. He says to us, you've been healed of your hurt, get up and love. And even though we've all been hurt, we can still love. It doesn't mean that we're always going to get love back, but true love is loving somebody even when you know they don't love you and they're not going to give you anything back. But set boundaries and like keep yourself safe and everything. I'm not like trying to do anything about all that. Okay, that's all that I have. Thank you guys very much for listening. I really appreciate it.